Welcome to Module 4, Federal Mandates in Higher Education. As we begin our next module, we will be focusing our attention to several federal laws, mandates, and regulations which impact the operations of higher education institutions on a daily basis. Safety, security, equity, and access are all issues which have an impact in higher education on students, faculty, and staff. Institutions are required by law to ensure that the policies, services, and processes ensure compliance with all federal guidelines. While not all-encompassing, this week we will be exploring the Americans with Disabilities Act, Title IX, the Clery Act, and the Campus Safety Act. Each of these pieces of legislation greatly impact and inform the way higher education leaders are expected to serve their constituencies. As you will discover through reading federal legislation and guidance this week, not all legislation and guidance is created equal in how the law should be implemented on campuses. As you approach this week's content, I encourage that you adopt the viewpoint of one of the leadership roles you hope to fill in the future. How would this federal legislation impact the work that you do, the work of your office or department, your division, and the institution as a whole? In this presentation, we will explore 3 of these pieces of legislation more in depth with regard to accessibility, campus safety, and security. When considering the legal protections for students with disabilities, 2 pieces of legislation guide the requirements for higher education institutions. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 prohibits discrimination against an otherwise qualified individual with a disability solely on the basis of disability in any program or activity that receives federal financial assistance. According to the Section 504 guidance, it is the policy of the United States that all programs, projects, and activities receiving assistance under this chapter shall be carried out in a manner consistent with the principles of respect for individual dignity, personal responsibility, self-determination, and pursuit of meaningful careers based on informed choice of individuals with disabilities. Respect for the privacy, rights, and equal access, including the use of accessible formats of the individuals. Inclusion, integration, and full participation of the individuals. Support for the involvement of an individual's representative if an individual with a disability requests, desires, or needs such support. And support for individual and systemic advocacy and community involvement. With the ADA, the purpose is to carry out the ADA's objectives of providing a clear and comprehensive national mandate for the elimination of discrimination and clear, strong, consistent, enforceable standards addressing discrimination by reinstating a broad scope of protections to be available under the ADA. These acts apply to all constituencies at an institution, but for the purposes of this module, we will be exploring the services for students with disabilities perspective. In order to meet the legal definition of having a disability according to the ADA, an individual must have physical or mental impairment which impacts one or more major life activities which has been recorded or has been regarded as having an impairment, whether the impairment is actual or perceived. For students who meet the legal definition of having a disability, 2 major requirements have been identified: access and accommodation. Students must be able to access the spaces in which our learning takes place. They must be able to utilize services that have been deemed a reasonable accommodation to help support the student. In higher education, those resources can include auxiliary aids to help support the learning environment, including, but not limited to, interpreters, adaptive technologies such as screen readers, adapted course resources such as audio recordings of textbooks, large print text or braille text, and accessible transportation. One of the challenges facing colleges and universities is that they are financially responsible for providing the access and accommodations, for which some institutions could be in the millions of dollars. And the amount needed is unknown from year to year, as disability information cannot be collected as a part of the admissions process. Later on in the course, we will also explore the legal issues surrounding physical spaces, on-campus housing, and academic accommodations. Title IX was enacted in 1972 to address sex discrimination. According to Title IX, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Title IX applies to elementary, secondary, and higher education. While commonly referred to in recent history as addressing issues of sexual harassment and assault on college campuses, Title IX has a much farther reach than may be realized. Admissions, provisions for pregnancy and parenting, housing, as well as ensuring equity in athletics are all covered through the Title IX provisions. One of your readings this week is the Title IX statute. The far-reaching breadth and depth of this legislation has impacts on the academic and student services functions offered by institutions of higher education, as you will discover reading the document. In most recent history, Title IX has gained public notoriety through the recent regulatory focus on the instances of sexual assault on campus. A well-recognized turning point for higher education with regard to Title IX was the Dear Colleague letter of April 2011. As a student conduct administrator, this letter had a huge impact on the conduct processes on campus across the country, and its impact can still be felt today. A Dear Colleague letter is a correspondence from the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights to educational institutions to inform them of policy interpretations and expectations. Deemed a significant guidance document by OCR, the April 2011 letter called institutions of higher education to action on the importance and obligation of addressing sexual harassment, assault, and violence in the higher education community. Of note, the Office of Civil Rights did not and has not provided guidance of the specific processes of addressing complaints of sexual harassment, assault, and violence on campuses. Rather, the process has been left to the decision of the institutions to best suit the mission and culture of the institution. However, certain parameters, such as the 60-day timeline for complaint resolution issued in the guidance offered in 2014, have received more clarity since 2011. As a part of Title IX, individuals may file a complaint to the Office of Civil Rights regarding the handling of the Title IX process at their institution. According to the Chronicle of Education's OCR complaint tracker, as of May 13, 2017, 62 cases have been resolved, and 333 are still open. Campus sexual assault was a major legal issue for the previous administration, and it is still to be seen what the current administration will do with regard to the enforcement of Title IX. The Cleary Act was created as the result of a sexual assault and murder of Janine Cleary in 1986 at Lehigh University. The purpose of the Act is to inform students, employees, parents, and other constituencies of crimes which occur on college campuses. The Act calls for colleges and universities to publish statistics regarding crimes which occur within a calendar year and to make this report available to the public. The crimes which must be included in this annual security report include criminal homicide, murder and non-negligent manslaughter, manslaughter by negligence, sexual assault, rape, fondling, incest, statutory rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, motor vehicle theft, and arson. The following hate crime statistics are also reported: larceny, theft, simple assault, intimidation, and destruction, damage, vandalism of property. Additionally, student disciplinary statistics for alcohol, drugs, and weapons are included in the report. While not a part of the Cleary Act, recently statistics regarding domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking have been added to the annual security report in compliance with the Violence Against Women Act. This report must be disseminated to all students and employees once a year. National Lewis's annual security report has been included as a part of your readings for this week.